What's up, Browns fans? Big one this week for the Cleveland Browns as they get ready to take on the Baltimore Ravens, the former Cleveland Browns in their own stadium,
Oh,
coming up
gee.
this Sunday, and certainly a lot of good stuff to talk about. Honestly, Megs, it's interesting. Like there are more storylines than I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know if I want to say like than usual for a week 2 game, but it is kind of interesting. Like this game has suddenly come with like a bunch of juice and a bunch of extra storylines, starting with the fact that the Ravens are doing this 30-year celebration right in front of the Browns. So we'll talk about that here in a second. It's Anthony Moeglin. It's Spencer German with you. Make sure that you follow along with all things Cleveland Browns at our new location, our new website, roundtable.io/sports/NFL/Browns. We have all of written content over there. Obviously, the YouTube channel where many of you might be watching this right now is branded accordingly as well. And as always, we are grateful for your support. So hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so. Make sure you stay locked in on all things Cleveland Browns at all times throughout the season and the offseason. But Megs, I just kind of want to give you the floor here because you're a diehard Cleveland Browns fan from growing up here in Cleveland. And I know that you feel some type of way about this, and I know many other fans feel some type of way about this, and I think it's an interesting conversation that the Ravens decided that they were going to do their 30th year celebration on Sunday in front of the Cleveland Browns, who many fans feel like it's a celebration of the team that they stole. Now, I think they've come out with a statement and said that there was no like ill intentions with this. It was just like they
miss me with all that.
Apparently, they planned it ahead of time, and it was just like it worked out where the Browns were the team that was coming to town. But I would argue that you could have changed it.
You could have done anything, right? If it wasn't for, I mean, it's the most that everywhere you've listened to Browns content today is, as I'm sure talked about it. Ken Carman had a good one. Andy Baskin had a good one. Called my dad today. He was pissed. Like everybody who lived through that. I didn't live through it, right? I was a youngster. 97 is when it happened. So I don't even know if I was born quite yet before or when the Browns moved. But like, you forget that, before these 25 years now of really painful football in Cleveland, like that was one of the best teams in football. Like they took the best team and one of the best teams in the AFC and moved them to Baltimore, started the Ravens. The Ravens they win 2 Super Bowls as the Cleveland Browns. Like, it's a crazy, crazy thing. And like for them to say it's not that is crazy because obviously just the matchup in general. And then you have Art Modell's son as the honorary captain who, if he stepped foot in Cleveland, wouldn't survive. Like that wouldn't be a good day for him. If he did that, like just horrible. Like it is a massive middle finger to Cleveland. It's a slap in the face to the new Browns franchise. It's not new anymore, but the newer version of the Browns franchise. It's an insane move. And frankly, it's BS in my opinion. And, they asked Kevin today and you were in the room, but like Kevin kind of, as he does, he dodged it. But I think the players understand it, right? The players who haven't even a little bit of touch to the fan base understand like, hey, massive slap in the face to everybody who wears brown and orange on Sundays.
Well, I think the players understand where the fans are coming from. Joe Flacco kind of alluded to that, like the idea that, he sees both sides where it's like, well, the Ravens, this is a historic moment for them, like 30 years in the league, all that. But also like he understands why Browns fans can interpret it that way. But I think what was interesting about Joe's response was like he sort of framed it in a way where it's like, I think it can be almost like a folklore thing where it's like Ravens fans are like, well, what's the big deal? And Browns fans are like, well, this matters to us. And then that kind of just adds some juice to the whole thing in general. He was kind of not taking sides at all. But I also think Joe alluded to the fact that like the players aren't going into this game like, oh, what a slap in the face. Like, this is so disrespectful to us. Cause like, it doesn't matter to them. They weren't here when that happened. And obviously the Browns history, like they know the Browns history. Kevin Stefanski said about the players and how they understand it. And that their focus is just on trying to go win a football game. They're not worried about the extra stuff. But we also know that these coaches use anything for motivation. And so I would be surprised if it hasn't at least come up. Like, hey, they're trying to celebrate the fact that they stole this team from Cleveland at one point. Like, let's have some pride and go play down there and try to get the win. So it's the Jordan mentality, right? Like if you just looked at Jordan the wrong way, he'd be like, I'm going to even if even if you were his best friend, he's gonna like find a reason to beat you. So I kind of still think it's probably come up a little bit, but yeah, I can understand 100% where Browns fans are at with this. Maybe the Ravens did plan it far in advance and whatever, but I would argue you could have moved it. You could have picked a different game. You could have. It didn't have to be when the Browns were in town, and so I still think that it was. There's a little bit of maliciousness to this to a degree that they all this with the Browns right there in front of them and sort of celebrating the fact that Art Modell moved their team to Baltimore. And if there's anybody that should understand that too, it's like it's Ravens fans because they lost their team originally in the Baltimore Colts, who my great uncle played for, and like, and the biggest difference obviously is that like the Ravens have gone on to have great success and win Super Bowls and all those things, and the Browns haven't. So I think that's why it probably is differently for these two fan bases. Is like the Browns fans feel like the Ravens' success should be their success, and Ravens fans are like, well, get over it. And I think it sort of adds like a fun little, side story or subplot to the entire thing.
There's no doubt that it's, I think everything you said is right. Like to the players, it doesn't mean anything. But what I will say is this is like, if there are football gods out there, if there is a football god and it's not on the Browns side this week, we have no chance ever. The Cleveland Browns have no chance of all time. Because if there was a tailor-made day for whatever you believe in to be on the Browns side of things, it is Sunday. And, it was very similar, kind of similar vibes to last year when we had the Jim Donovan day.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
Well, literally when we say that Jim Donovan, slapped the ball out of Kyle Hamilton's hands, which hindsight, Jim, let him catch that. We'd have Cam Ward on our team. I mean, come on, dude, a little foresight there. That's nice, dude. But yeah, I know a little bit of the same vibes here. Means a lot to the fan base. I know everyone, outside the locker room has got something to say about it if you lived it and breathed it. And certainly if you grew up in that era and you loved Browns football before they moved, Sunday's going to be a big day.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I like that you brought the Jim Donovan thing up there because I was going to say the exact same thing. Like if there is a greater being out there that's monitoring football, maybe they'll be on the Browns side on Sunday. And here's what I will say: if the Browns are able to pull off this upset and come back with the win, especially we're going to talk about this next, like with Joe Flacco playing in front of his former team for the first time, that would be like the ultimate rub it in their face type thing, right? Like
that would be cool.
Hey,
yeah,
we stole one from you when you tried to celebrate the fact that you stole our team. So take that. It would be the cherry on top of it all. But it is true what I just said, by the way. Joe Flacco is going back to Baltimore for the first time in his career, which is kind of crazy because he's been away from that team now for 7 years. 2018 was the last time he was a member of the Ravens. That was the year Lamar came into the league and he got hurt, and then Lamar sort of took the reins, and they leaned into Lamar being their franchise quarterback. I thought it was cool. Lamar had some really nice comments about Joe Flacco and how he like loves that guy, and it's like the vibes are always great with him and all that, which was funny. So clearly there's still a nice relationship. Joe has a bunch of relationships in town. He talked about a bunch of his families coming. Actually, here, instead of me telling you what Joe Flacco said, why don't I just show you what Joe Flacco said? Here's 2 minutes of Joe Flacco just riffing about what Baltimore means to him and the memories that he had there.
We all know kind of the story there. And yeah, like I have nothing but love for the people in that facility and the people in that city. I mean, for sure. It's one of those things like, in the NFL, there's a business side of it and, things happen. I'm fortunate to be where I am today and be in this position, but I have nothing for love for that city and for that organization. I mean, I was a small school guy that they took a little bit of a chance on early on in the draft, and I have so many good memories with those people and that city and that stadium. So a very special place.
Is it special for you to go back there in Baltimore?
Listen, it's been a while now, so you kind of just. I think I'm very capable of just seeing it as another division game, but it will be cool to go back in that stadium. I haven't had a chance to do it since I've played there. I really love playing there. It's an awesome place to play. It's an awesome venue. It's an awesome atmosphere. They do a great job. So I love playing there. So I think in that respect, it will be pretty cool to go back for sure. No, you don't need any more excitement. And I honestly don't think that you're like as players and like if you're watching the game on TV, I don't really think you're going to feel that side of it. That's just something that's going to be there for the people that are in attendance, and at halftime. I mean, and I'll probably head out 10 minutes earlier to say hello to a couple guys. Got a lot of people coming to the game because it's an easy little drive down from Jersey, and a lot of people that have a lot of memories watching me play in that stadium. So I think it's kind of cool for them. For me, it is. It's another game. I got to prepare to play another football game, but I think when you look at like the outside of it, there's going to be some people that kind of get to have some fun with this.
Will you be able to keep your emotions in
Yeah,
check?
yeah.
I mean,
No, for sure.
come on, but-
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, even if I'm not, you're not going to know. So, I've been criticized my whole career for not being able to show any emotion. So I think that's the last thing you have to worry about with me.
Love the little part there at the end about keeping his emotions in check. That always kind of has been a staple of Flacco's career anyway. I do think it'll be a little emotional for him. He talked about how since he's played the Ravens at least once before, like he's kind of gotten that out of the way to a degree. But this is the first time he's playing back at M&T Bank Stadium, back in front of those fans that he played in alone, that he won a Super Bowl for. So, and back in 2012, over a decade ago. So there's a lot that comes with that. The 30th celebration thing probably is going to have a little bit more to it in regards to him because he's part of that 30-year history and a prominent part of that 30-year history. But it is kind of a cool sub story. And I was shocked when I looked this up this week that this is the first time he's played back in Baltimore since he left. Because I would have thought by now he would have crossed paths somehow with the Ravens in Baltimore.
And we've spent in our time covering Cleveland, being fans in Cleveland, whatever. We've had a couple legends come back home to different receptions. What do you think the reception's going to be for Joe Flacco?
It'll be positive.
It better be.
I don't get the sense. Yeah, I don't get the sense that like Ravens fans hold any ill will towards him. I don't think I think they think it's, in a way, I'm sure they probably think it's like, oh, it's cute. Flacco's made until he's 40. He's playing for the Browns. I think it's like there's no ill will. There's no animosity. It was a business decision, but I think he's still adored there in the same way that Joe Hayden went and played for the Steelers for several years towards the end of his career, but then he came back and retired to Brown and he's still adored here. And when people see Joe Hayden at training camp every year, they're like, oh, that's Joe Hayden. That's our guy. So, and he still speaks glowingly about Cleveland. So I think the same thing sort of applies to Flacco in Baltimore. I don't think there's going to be any negative responses. I think it's going to be all positive for him.
Here's a question for you. I was thinking about this today while I was just driving. Is Flacco's a Hall of Famer, right?
I think that's a really good question because he doesn't have like the overall accolades in terms of like awards and things like that. Like he was never, at least as far as I remember,
an MVP
I want to pull this up. He was a Super Bowl MVP, but he was never an MVP for the regular season. He was never a Pro Bowler, I don't think. He was never a Pro Bowler. And he won Comeback Player of the Year, obviously, with the Browns. I don't know where he sits all-time passing yards.
He's about to become – if he has – I think he needs
have this up already?
200 – he needs like –
okay.
He needs like 200 or so
18th.
yards.
He's 18th all-time in career passing yards behind Vinny Testaverde.
Yeah, and he's like 200 yards away from Vinny. Like he might pass him this weekend.
And so, but here's the thing. Then the closest Hall of Famer to him on this list right now is Fran Tarkenton, who is still like 2,000 yards away. And then like after Fran, it's like Warren Moon, John Elway. Eli is probably going to get in this year because I think he's on the ballot this year. Matt Stafford will probably get in when it's all said and done. Dan Marino, Matt Ryan, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, the parameters for getting in nowadays is different because there's a lot more passing yards nowadays, right? But I don't know. I feel like Flacco is going to be looked at as like a compiler and maybe not a Hall of Famer. But yeah, I could be wrong.
An interesting because unless he rips.
How about this? Is Joe Flacco elite? Can we have that conversation again from like back
elite.
In like 20 what year was it? When were we having that conversation? Like 2010,
it had to be
2015.
Yeah, I was gonna say it had to be one of those like after and before and after he won the Super Bowl. if he rips off a Super Bowl championship with the Browns, that gives him 2. That gets him in the Eli
That
Manning
probably gets it
category.
in. That probably gets it
And
in.
then you go in.
Because that's the interesting thing. If Eli gets in, then maybe he has a case. But he probably does need a second ring because that's the only reason Eli's getting in. Because Eli's regular season numbers have never been that good. Like they've just been kind of like, okay, that's cool, that's cute. But that's the big problem with Eli is like everyone always looks at his stats and they're like, is this guy really a Hall of Famer? But it's because his biggest moments are the 2 playoff runs where he beat
in the Super Bowl.
Tom Brady and the Patriots in the Super Bowl. One of those Tom Brady teams, by the way, was like the greatest team ever assembled, and he beat them. And so it's one of those like, can you tell the story of the NFL without him? And probably not, because when you take down those 2 teams, when you take down Tom Brady, that's a hard thing to overcome, or that's a hard thing to just like not consider.
And if he wins it as a Cleveland Brown, if he wins a Super Bowl with the Browns, he probably goes in as a Brown. That would be my guess, right? He probably erases.
I don't know, probably not, but
I'm messing around. It's an interesting question. I was thinking about literally.
Can they get to the Super Bowl this year? That's the question.
Right. Well, damn, I was about to build the statue in 2023 when he was let us on 5.
I'm not gonna lie. I probably drank the Kool-Aid a little bit in 2023 because I thought like
a little bit.
I thought the Texans were beatable. And I still think they were kind of beatable in that game. It was just the defense, and then Flacco threw the 2 pick sixes. And then I kind of said, like, hey, you beat them. Then you get Baltimore, who you know very well. Like, anything can happen there. And then all of a sudden, you're in the AFC Championship game. So who knows? But anyway, that was several years ago now.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's get back on track here. Flacco returns home. It is crazy. He's never been back. That is shocking. Been away for 8 years, never been back. I think it would be pretty cool to see the reception he gets. Like you said, it's going to be positive. This isn't LeBron returning back to Cleveland after the decision. Like this is an old friend coming home to Baltimore, which I think is going to be. I think it's going to be pretty cool. That'll be pretty cool.
It's a cool subplot for him. And I do think it will be cool if he stole a win there and sort of spoiled
the amazing
30th anniversary day.
Yeah.
And gets the Browns on the board with a win and sends the Ravens to 0-2 to start the season. Like a little bit of a last laugh. And he even admitted to the idea that like, yeah, even though it's been a while, even though I already played him once before, since I left, like, it's a former team of yours. So there always is like a little bit of an edge that you have when you're like, I want to beat that team. So
yeah, no doubt. And like you said too, like when they're doing their 30-year montages and probably showing the trucks coming from Cleveland to Baltimore, like he'll be in that video, right? He'll be there. He'll be a part of that video when that Super Bowl run he went on. Like, if you don't remember it now, go back and look it up. It was the best 4-game stretch of football you'll ever see, and it was unbelievable in the game against Denver. They may even play that whole overtime against Denver because he was spectacular and all that stuff. So it'll be pretty cool. It's going to be an interesting, definitely a fascinating feel to how it all connects and comes together.
I'm curious to see how many Browns fans are there to boo when they flash Art Modell up on the video board. So
hopefully all of them. Hopefully all of them.
We'll see what that looks like in the grand scheme. The other big news to start the week of practice, of course, is that Quinshon Judkins is back with the team, but was not in the building on Wednesday. He signed his contract over the weekend. He's finally in the fold. We talked about this a little bit pre and post game on Sunday. But he was absent on Wednesday because Kevin Stefanski couldn't tell us this, but we found out later that he was in New York meeting with the league to discuss his disciplinary situation with the off the field incident he had back in July in South Florida. And so there's a couple things. First of all, the one topic is he going to get suspended? And I think the easy answer here is just like, I don't know, because the NFL is kind of unpredictable with these things. On one hand, they don't need a conviction. I mean, conviction is more like criminal court, but they don't need a guilty ruling or whatever, or charges being filed to discipline somebody via the personal conduct policy. That's how these things work. And generally that's how, that's happened to other guys, right? Who weren't found guilty, but ended up having to serve suspensions in some capacity. So there's that, But on the other hand, like there are no charges being brought against him. And so the NFL could just kind of let it go after this conversation and he never gets suspended. So it's going to be interesting to see the timeline on this, because even if he comes back, depending on how long it takes now that they've had this conversation, he might get suspended before, or sooner. He might get suspended later. He might not get suspended at all. But I think it is still very much a mystery at this point, because you just never know how the NFL is going to handle these things and what information they have.
Yeah, and if you're a Browns coach, fan, player, whatever, you want to see Quinshon on the field. And him missing practice today is not great after missing all of camp. I don't know how much you can put him on the field, but maybe it's a couple plays here and there. Maybe you can get him a couple carries. Had a buddy text me today saying his punishment for missing all of camp should be 40 carries on Sunday. Yeah, that would look good, because that Browns run game needs a little life to it, needs a little juice to it. I don't know, man. It still feels really weird and uncomfortable at this point, just to see when he's going to be back and playing for the Browns, because you just don't really know.
Yeah, it's a big mystery. I would say the other part of this is like how soon he'll be able to play, a suspension or otherwise. And I just think with him missing Wednesday, Megs, it seems very, very, very unlikely that he'd be able to suit up for week 2.
Well, not even just missing practice, like missing the whole day of install, the whole thing, right? Like all of it.
Well, and he missed all training camp, so it's like,
right.
Like there's already a little bit of a catching up process he has to. Then he doesn't even start the week of practicing with the team. It just seems like a lot to squeeze into like 2 days to have him ready for week 2. I think what ultimately happens here is that they probably take the 2 weeks that they have this roster exemption, where he's basically like a 54th player on the roster but isn't actually active, and they just kind of let that play out, and then they elevate him in time for week 3 against the Packers, and that's when he's going to make his Browns debut, is in front of the Green Bay Packers coming down the pike here in 2 weeks in front of the hometown fans. That's my thought process on it. That's how I think it probably plays out, because it just seems like too quick of a turnaround to get him ready in the next 2 days. Kevin Stefanski said he will be there Thursday, but it seems like it'd be too quick to get him up to speed that quickly. I'd be shocked if he's starting in any capacity or playing in any capacity on Sunday. I think they need him, to your point. Like, they need that extra spark, and he brings that. But I don't know if he's going to be able to play. Now, maybe they surprise us, and they're just like, you know what? We have like 15 plays that we think he can run, and we're just going to put him out there. But I still think it would be a little bit shocking if he's out there at this point with still not really practicing with the team in any capacity, and now he's supposed to do it in 2 days and then play. I don't know.
I can't even fathom how that would even go. Like, I don't even know if he even has like his pads, right? Like he wasn't there.
Well, he had pads in the spring, so I'm guessing he has pads. But
there you go. But the whole thing, learning all of the stuff in and out of the huddle, play calls, motions, all the things, man. Like, I just think it's like you said, it's too much to bite off, and that was part of it, right? When he missed all of training camp, like we've been concerned about this, and even more so when he missed. And he got cleared, whatever it was, July something. And then it continued, he just signed a couple days ago, right? It was 2 months that he went unsigned, where it's like, come on, get this thing figured out, get you in camp so that you know what's going on, and you can contribute as quick as possible, because now we're getting the repercussions of all of it. And it sucks for a Browns offense that when we saw freaking Dylan Sampson be the most electric player on the field. Imagine a 2-back set with Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson together on the field at once, with Harold Fannin split out. And the things you can do with some of these guys is fun to think about, and it's still a thought until Quinshon Judkins can get on the field.
Yeah, and I think you bring it up a little bit here, but like they need him, right? Like, I think the difference is, and going back and watching the Ravens game, the Bengals game again, there was moments where Jerome Ford would get a handoff and he like didn't see the hole well, or he just didn't have the explosiveness to like get up in the hole quick enough, and then it closed too quickly. The idea here is, I want to be clear here, I'm not trying to say that Quinshon Judkins is going to be Nick Chubb. I think it's unfair to put any sort of expectation on him to be the second best running back in franchise history. And Chubb was such a brilliant player that, like, I'm not going to say he's going to be Nick Chubb, but where I think the comparisons to Nick Chubb sort of do exist are This is a guy they used a second-round pick on because he's supposed to be a talented player. And so in some respects, like, he's an eraser. I think Nick Chubb, or I think the Browns' offensive line has been pretty good. I think it was good with Nick Chubb when he was in the prime of his career here. But I also think that Nick was so good that if there was mistakes made up front, he helped erase them. Like, he could make a guy miss and then still explode through the hole for like a 40-yard game or a 60-yard touchdown or whatever it is. And I think the idea here is that Quinshawn can do the same thing. Like, he'll see the holes, he'll get in them. If somebody misses a block, hey, he might be able to actually make a guy miss and then still make a play out of it, because that's the type of talent that he's sort of expected to. But I think that's the biggest difference, is he adds another element to your run game. He's a more talented player, and to get him back out there would be huge, because 2 yards per carry is not going to cut it for very long in this league. You might be able to survive like that for a couple weeks here, but the sooner he gets out there, the better, because they need a running back with his skill set.
Yeah, not 2 yards per carry isn't gonna cut it, and Joe Flacco dropping back 40+ times also isn't gonna cut it. Right? This offense needs to be. We've talked about it ad nauseum, right? They want to live through the run, right? And there's a lot that they need to improve upon from that Cincinnati game, right? The interior guys didn't have their best games, right? DeJuan Jones didn't have his best game, right? Especially in the run game, in the run fit. So there's a lot to improve upon there, and it will certainly help. We get number 10 back, whatever the heck number he's going to wear, getting him back in the backfield and making him a focal point for the offense to try to get this offense to continue to grow.
The offense, I think it feels like an appropriate time to discuss a little bit about just what it's going to take to beat this Ravens team on Sunday. Mm-hmm. It's a tough Ravens team. We know that they're a juggernaut. Their roster is loaded from top to bottom, position to position, offense to defense, whatever it is. You see notable names across this roster who are very, very good players. It's one of the biggest reasons why the Ravens are a Super Bowl contending team this year. And it all starts obviously with Lamar Jackson. I'm curious though, Megs, I'm curious to get your perspective on what you think the recipe is for beating Baltimore. They scored 40 points in week 1, still lost to the Buffalo Bills because the Buffalo Bills are also brilliant in their own right. Yeah. And it was a frustrating loss. I think the Browns obviously have to score more points in this game. 16 points definitely isn't going to cut it in this matchup. But how do you think this Browns team, what is the path to victory for a Browns team that obviously is limited in what they can do overall, but that proved in week 1 that they can be competitive with some of the best teams and quarterbacks in this league?
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think there's a number of things too. You talked about just the personnel that Baltimore brings to the table. They're also going to be pissed off because they feel just like the Browns feel they let one slip away. The Ravens feel like they let one slip away. And even more importantly, the Browns are trying to, we're trying to convince ourselves that we're a wild card team, right? Trying to convince ourselves of that. Baltimore's fighting for the 1 seed, and they kind of just screwed themselves last week by giving up 16 straight points and needing a heroic effort from Josh Allen to do it. And truthfully, it's going to need to be something similar to that, right? They go, in my opinion, their offense starts with Derrick Henry. Okay, when he's rolling like he was last week, over 150 yards rushing, makes it damn near impossible to stop them, because then that lets Lamar Jackson just kind of go and do his thing and do so in a way that there's no pressure on him, because he knows that Derrick can get 6, 7, 8 yards a pop. And what's funny is that even going back to the days in Tennessee, Cleveland's always been okay against Derrick Henry. Not great. I remember some of those games when Joe Woods was the coach and Shelby Richardson was our what was his name? Richardson, not Shelby Harris. Shoot, played defensive tackle. Slipping my mind forgetting his name, but I just remember a bunch of times where we were stuffing him in the backfield and really bottling Derrick Henry up, and you're going to need to do something similar to that. And what I think though is that kind of leans into what Cleveland's really good at, right? Their defensive line.
You talking about what? Sheldon Richardson?
Sheldon Richardson. I skipped.
I think that's it, right? Am I right about that? I think that's
yes. Number 98. He wore. Yes. He played defensive line. He forced the fumble in that crazy game where Baker threw 5 touchdowns. Donovan Peoples-Jones had that big one up the sidelines. And that was when the Titans were good and they had Ryan Tannehill, and the Browns went down there and boat raced them. It was Jarvis Landry, Rashad Higgins. It was Donovan Peoples-Jones. I just forgot Sheldon Richardson's name. That's on me.
All the memories are coming back out now.
Right. But anyway, stop the run. Right, do so with the defensive line, and really don't let Derrick Henry get going, because once he gets going, he's impossible to stop. And I don't care. We learned it last year. He ran right through JOK and ended his career potentially. Like, he gets rolling like that, and it's really hard to stop. That's where the focal point begins for the Browns defense.
Yeah, listen, I what you said about Derrick Henry, spot on. The fact that he's in his 30s now and still one of the best backs in football is kind of remarkable, honestly. With all the carries he's had, he just refuses to deteriorate. It's kind of honestly otherworldly. It's wild. Yeah, he's great. It does, their offense starts with Lamar and him, and sort of the two-man game of the different types of things they can do, the options that they can sort of produce off of handing the football off or keeping it or whatever. And there's just a lot you got to account for there. What I will say is that I actually think the Browns have to score more points. That's first and foremost in this game. But I do think the strategy from week 1 can sort of be the same in week 2. And what I mean by that is long, drawn out drives. The Browns defense, they want to make sure that if the Ravens are going to score, they're gonna have to earn it. They're gonna have to go 7, 8, 9, 10 plays down the field and milk a lot of clock. And the Browns, conversely, they want long, methodical drives down the field so that they can eat a bunch of clock. You want to limit the number of possessions, the number of times that Lamar Jackson's going to have the football in his hands, because that then it's like the body blows of a boxer, right? The more times that he can have opportunities to pick you apart and evade pressure and make plays with his legs, that's what you're trying to avoid. So you want to make sure he has the ball less. So if the Browns can play sort of a methodical style game and more drives with touchdowns and more drives with scoring where the kicker isn't missing the field goals, obviously is a big thing, then I think you have a shot in this game for sure to at least keep it within one possession to make it interesting till the end. But you got to be able to limit those possessions for the other team, and I think that essentially worked in the first game. The defense was great in the second half and shut down that offense, and it was just about not being able to punch in enough points to win. But a similar sort of style while also scoring a little bit more, I think, can get the job done against this team. And that's easier said than done because Lamar's a great player. But we've also seen this team sometimes contain Lamar, force him into mistakes, do some things. And those are going to be some of the same things that have to apply to you're going to get a win. Maybe a turnover. A turnover would be nice, right?
Yeah. And Germ, everyone, the easy thing to think when you're watching that Sunday night football game, and the easy thing that everybody was tweeting, right, or posting was oh, these two teams are playing a different sport, and they're doing, the Browns can't hang with them or whatever it is. It's really important to remember that styles make the fights here. And this is not going to be, it's not going to feel at all like it felt like on Sunday Night Football. The Ravens got into a track meet with the Bills because the Bills can run a track meet. Guess what? Yeah, the Browns aren't running a track meet. It is not going to be a track meet. If it starts getting that way, watch Kevin Stefanski freaking throw that thing into first gear and slow it all the way down, just to your point, to try to shrink the game a little bit. The Browns are going to be in this football game. I think the one thing that, you and I have talked about, you've been there and we've kind of felt this way, is that the Browns are going to be a tough team to beat and their defense is going to be good. I think you saw that in week 1, and I think you're going to continue to see that. And if you just don't turn the football over and your kicker can make a 35-yard kick, you're going to be in this football game. You're going to be in it. And I think that's something that fans should be excited about going into this game, is hey, this ain't going to be a track meet like you saw on Sunday Night Football. This could be one where it does become that 10-round fight that you were talking about, where it's body blows, and then whoever makes that mistake first, could capitalize on it.
Now, I will say I'm also interested. You talk about not winning a shootout, and I agree. That's not how the Browns are sort of built. But I am curious to see what type of opportunities exist for this Browns receiving core, guys like Harold Fannin, against this Ravens secondary, because they struggled. They struggled against the Bills big time. I know it's Josh Allen, it's different weapons, all that. But they seemed like they were pretty susceptible on that back end. They're one of the worst passing defenses now to start the season. And there's some notable names back there. We know Kyle Hamilton. We know Marlon Humphrey. We know Nate Wiggins is a pretty solid
the new one, Jair Alexander. He had a horrible day.
Alexander's there as well, and he's, I think, dealing with a little bit of an injury, and he's barely practiced. But, yeah, he's there. So, they have a lot of talent there, but it didn't really come to fruition week 1. And considering that the Browns didn't push the ball downfield too much in week 1, I kind of wonder if there's going to be some opportunities there to do that in this game. And that could be the difference in them punching in some touchdowns, actually putting up more points or not. So yeah, I'm fascinated to see how it plays out, but I think we've sort of, I think we've connected the dots on all like the main concepts that kind of had to happen if the Browns are going to walk out of there with a win on Sunday.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And ultimately, it is going to be a fun one. And I do think I don't anticipate this getting into a blowout territory. Like this Browns team, if there's anything you took away from last Sunday is that they're going to fight their tails off and they're going to be well coached. Like, hey, what have we always said, past 2 years? Like they can't get out of the huddle. They have pre-snap penalties, all that stuff. They showed the signs of being a very well-coached team last Sunday, and I think that's going to carry over, and this is going to be a much closer game than I think many are anticipating.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. And I'll say this, like the spread on this game, last I looked was 11.5. And I think I get it. And part of me is like, that could happen because the Ravens are going to come in so mad from the first game and just like blow them out of the water. But I think in an AFC North game like this, an AFC North matchup, early in the season, teams are still figuring things out. There's a lot of sloppiness and all that. We're not going to make picks here yet because we'll do those obviously this weekend. But I'd be shocked if the Browns don't keep it within at least that spread of 11.5. Like 10, like if they can't keep it within 10, I'd be sort of surprised here because I think they are at the very least, right? Because I think they're going to be competitive enough to do that throughout the season, and it's just going to be about like, can they slow down the opposing team enough to win, or is it going to be sort of tough to see what happens on Sunday? But yeah, I'm willing to predict right here already that I think they keep it within the 11.5.
11.5 is insane. That is insane.
It's a massive spread. I think it's the biggest spread of the weekend, honestly. So.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. It is by far, by 5 points, the biggest spread of the weekend. Not even close.
Crazy. That's crazy.
Well, maybe I'm back to brown and orange glasses, Anthony. As I thought I retired him. I thought he retired last week.
One of us is 1-0, and one of us is 0-1. So
I know. Hey,
dude, I'm still mad. My score prediction. My score prediction was going to hit. I was right on point, and then Andre Schmidt had to miss that field goal. He could have made that one, and then I was saying the Bengals are going to go down and hit a field goal, and then the Browns are going to hit a field goal to win it, 22-20. Would have got out of there with a perfect score prediction, but
it would have been you would have gotten a gold star for me. That's for sure.
I would have gone and played the lotto. That was already. I think
you'd be a billionaire. Nobody would ever see you ever.
I think that's someone at that point. But anyway, we appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with us. As always, make sure you hit that subscribe button here at Cleveland Browns Roundtable, the YouTube channel, where you can find more content like this, and of course, press conferences from throughout the week of practice from players, coaches, and much, much more. And as always, we want to remind you also to head on over to our new website, roundtable.io/sports/NFL/Browns, where you can find all of our written content. I got a piece up there about Flacco on Wednesday, and I'm working on a piece about the impact Quinshon Judkins can have in the offense at some point once he's back, which I don't think is going to be this weekend, but still. And we'll have a bunch of other good stuff up there as well. What I missed?
Yeah, I would say too, this new platform gives you an opportunity to interact with us directly. So I have a bunch of stuff what's in what's called our community section. So you can respond right to me. I get the notifications. We go back and forth, and it's super interactive. It's a lot of fun. So jump in there, go check it out, go bounce around. It's really cool, exciting opportunity for us to keep doing a lot of fun content, a little bit more fun content than we've done maybe so in the past. So get on over there and make sure you check it out.
And you can find all the podcast episodes down there usually too, because I know you like to share those in there as well. Yep. So appreciate you guys. As always, we will talk to you coming up this weekend as you get you ready for kickoff between the Browns and the Ravens. In the meantime, keep on following along with all things Cleveland Browns with Cleveland Browns Roundtable.